parents and students how to get to SBGBook. For students, there's a link on their Google Classroom for how to do this. For parents, and if you could either ask your students to show you this, or if your student is not being cooperative, again, contact me to let me know, and I can make sure that a password is reset so that you will be allowed to get in. At any rate, if you Google sbgbook.xyz, this page will pop up. To log in, student goes over here. They need to enter in their username and their password. Their username is something that is their school email, and I've talked to them about that. The password is something that was initially set to something that should be familiar with students. If not, and they can reset it, and if a student doesn't share with you what that is or doesn't know it, I can reset it as well. But students can reset their own passwords. I'm going to show you now what a student page will look like on SBGBook. This is a sample student. There's no one by this name really, but it's going to illustrate how students can access things. So once they log in, they'll get a page that looks like this. This is for a student named Anita Bath. The standards are listed over here with short names. There's letters and symbols and things like that. If you want to know what the standard means, you click on a question mark, and it will tell you what the standard means. For example, this one, DC2, which is direct current circuits 2, I can determine and explain the relationships between current, voltage, resistance, and power in simple series, parallel, and combined circuits, and a couple other things with that. So those go through those. For most standards that we use in integrated science and physics, your score is determined at any point in time by your highest score and your most recent score, and those need to be two unique things. So for example, if you have a maximum score of a 10 out of 10 on something, and you don't have any other 10 out of 10s other than your most recent score, it will take that most recent score as a 10 and then go for your other score unique that is a highest score. So everything that's assessed is going to be out of 10 points in a standard. Almost always things will be scored as a 10, an 8, a 6, a 5, and if a student does not complete the assignment or attempt the assignment, that would go as in a blank or a 0. So really, if you're making an effort, you should be getting a 5 in a standard, and almost certainly at least a 6 in a standard as well. So I'm going to look at this over here. These bars go for, and show how many different times a standard has been assessed. Oldest on the left, most recent to the right. So for example, this student in the standard, which deals with energy, I believe, work energy theorem and so forth, student looks like they initially got a 6, and then a 10, a 10, and a 10. Well, because the most recent score is a 10, and one of the other scores was a 10, those two average, the other scores drop off. So that student is now earning a 10 out of 10 in that category. Student down here at the bottom is had a 10, a 5, it looks like, or maybe a 6, and then a 10. The most recent score is a 10. The other score that's the highest score is also a 10. So this low score drops off, which is one of the main reasons that I like to use standards-based grading, because it allows students to learn as they go, and as they improve things, their scores can go up, because higher scores and more recent scores will replace lower ones. I do want to illustrate this sample DC3 here is a type of scoring method that is used for lab skills and scientific reasoning. Because we do labs all year long and all quarter long, and they assess different skills, I want the score in the lab skill standards to reflect the fact that a student should be putting in effort all year long. So that one has a slightly different method of calculation. It's an average of the most recent score and all the scores. And so I'll show you that in a bit. This column lists the most recent assignments. So this is the most recent assignment. A student got a 10, a 5, and a 10 on these 3 different standards. Other work, energy, called recent work, things like this. A student may have replaced something, so if they want to do a retake, students are allowed to retake up to 1 standard per week. I have a form on my Google Classroom where they can ask me to do that. They need to give me some notice because there's some requirements for them, because I want if they retake a standard to actually do better and not just be randomly chancing it. The goal is to improve your understanding, not just a score. So at any rate then, there's some other things down here, and they get older and older and older. newest ones at the top. If I want to look in detail at all the scores for a particular standard, I would click on this score for the standard. That's fantastic. So this is P1. Here, this lists and shows that there are 3 different times this standard was assessed. Final practice, recent work, practice worksheet. So the student got an 8 on the first assignment, a 10 on the second assignment, a 5 on the most recent assignment. The average is an average between the highest and the latest score unique. So those are those 2 things, which is why the student has a 7.5. If you want to get back to one of these other ones, let's say this one, unfortunately, I think there's a little bug in the program, so you just need to refresh the page. And now we'll go back and look at this standard, which I told you has a slightly different method of scoring. So this is an average of the latest and the average score. So the latest of this was a 10 out of 10. The average score for this is going to be a 10 plus a 5 plus a 10 divided by 3. So that's going to be a little over 8. It's going to be like an 8.4, I think. 8.4 and 10 average out to 9.2. So the goal for that is that lab skills should be things that students work on all year, and I don't want the score in that standard to be on the most recent and highest. I want to have some reflection of what they've done all year long. Once again, if they improve and do well at the end, they can improve their grade. If a student wants to find their overall grade, they could click up here. So this student's overall grade right now is 93. I'll update that in Campus about once a week. If a student wants to change the password, they can do that. If a student wants to email me or see what emails they've received from me, they can do that, and then they can log out. There's also a help menu where students can go through and see different aspects of this. It's a little annoying that that's cut off, but you can see some of those things. So that's how standards-based grading works and how SBGBook works. Students have a hard copy as well as access to an electronic copy of the wording of each standard. Again, how it's assessed, what becomes a 10, a 6, an 8, something like that. And I have a document available that I can share with parents if you'd like as well. So thanks. Hopefully that makes sense.